God is dead. Or at least that's what Friedrich Nietzsche famously declared. Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844 in a small Prussian town in what seemed like a happy family. They were Lutheran. His father was a pastor, and religion had shaped the household. As his father had been a tutor to the members of the royal family, he was named after Friedrich Wilhelm IV, the King of Prussia. He was the eldest of three children, a younger sister, Elizabeth, who would play a major role in his legacy, and his younger brother. His early childhood was warm and stable, but tragedy had struck really early on. Shortly after his brother's birth, Nietzsche's father fell ill with a severe brain disease, possibly related to a stroke or neurological disorder. Either way, within a year, he was dead. Months after, Nietzsche's younger brother, dead. By the age of 5, Nietzsche had lost both his father and mother, and was raised in a household of women. Mother, grandmother, 2 aunts. It shaped much of his early emotional life. He was raised in a deeply religious environment and later sent to a prestigious Christian boarding school, Schulpforta, known for its strict discipline and classical education. At first, he was excellent, brilliant, gifted in philosophy, classical studies, languages, and he loved ancient Greek culture, especially tragedy and pre-Socratic philosophy. But he asked too many questions. His curiosity unsettles teachers, his thinking grew more independent. Eventually, he abandoned it, shifted towards philology and philosophy at university, first at Bonn, then at Leipzig. It was during this time that he encountered the works of Arthur Schopenhauer, whose pessimistic philosophy deeply influenced him. This decision created distance between him and his family, especially his mother and sister. His faith in Christianity began to fracture, but it wasn't overnight that it was gone. It weakened steadily, and he began to question its moral foundations and even his very own. Nietzsche's academic career advanced rapidly. By the age of 24, he was a professor of classical philology at the University of Basel, an extraordinary achievement for someone so young, and he didn't even complete his doctorate in the traditional sense. During this period, he formed a close friendship with the composer Richard Wagner, whom he initially admired. Wagner's great dramatic mythical vision of art inspired Nietzsche, though the friendship would later end bitterly due to philosophical and personal disagreements. But his health was fragile. He suffered from severe migraines, vision problems that nearly blinded him, digestive issues, and chronic pain. The exact cause of the illness remains debated. Whatever it was, it worsened and he had to retire early in 1879. During this period of isolation, travel, and sickness, living in boarding houses across Switzerland, Italy, France, he wrote some of his most radical works. Among them was his most poetic and explosive book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. In it, a prophet named Zarathustra descends from a mountain to speak to humanity. The character was inspired by the ancient Persian prophet Zoroaster, chosen deliberately because Nietzsche believed Zoroaster had originally created the moral distinction between good and evil. But now in his story, he would be the one to move beyond it. In one of Nietzsche's most famous passages, he writes, quote, "God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves? The murderers of all murderers. What was holiest and mightiest of all that the world has yet owned had bled to death under our knives. Shall we not ourselves have to become gods merely to seem worthy of it?" End quote. This was not a celebration, it was a diagnosis. Nietzsche believed that modern science, secularism, and rationalism had eroded a belief in God. The Enlightenment had dismantled religious authority, but society had not yet found a replacement for the moral structure that religion had once provided. And so, God is dead meant the old source of the objective meaning and morality is no longer holding any power. And that creates a crisis. Without God, where does meaning come from? Nietzsche actually feared nihilism, the belief that life has no meaning. He saw it as Europe's coming danger, and he did not want to embrace it. He weren't against it. His answers was the idea of the Übermensch, not racially superior, but an individual who created their own values. someone who overcomes themselves, affirms life fully, suffering included, someone strong enough to say yes to existence even without divine guarantees. He believed that there's no absolute objective truth handed down from above. Traditional morality can enslave individuals through guilt and resentment. Christianity, in particular, promoted what he called slave morality. Suffering is not something to escape, but something that strengthens. You should live your life in such a way that you would choose to live it again, eternally. The idea of eternal recurrence. One must practice amor fati, the love of fate, embracing everything that happens as necessary. He called for individuality, not for chaos, strength, but not for cruelty, creation, not for destruction. His ideas misunderstood. They were shocking the deeply religious German states. His books initially sold very few copies. He increasingly lived alone, writings in tents, often walking for hours each day to think and compose ideas in notebooks. And years later, his mental state deteriorated. In 1889, in the city of Turin, Nietzsche witnessed a horse being violently whipped. He ran to the animal, threw his arms around its neck, and reportedly said, "I understand you." Shortly after, he collapsed. He never recovered. It was a full mental breakdown, likely due to a neurological condition. For the remaining 11 years of his life, he was mentally incapacitated and entirely silent. His sister Elizabeth took control of his state, and she had married a nationalist and an anti-Semite and shared those views. She edited his unpublished notes, rearranged fragments, and inserted her own nationalist, racist, and anti-Semitic interpretations of his work, especially in a compiled book titled The Will to Power, which Nietzsche himself never formally completed. Nietzsche himself was explicitly opposed to anti-Semitism and criticized German nationalism, but after his collapse, he could not defend his own philosophy. Decades later, Nazis would distort the Übermensch into racial ideas, but his writings were selectively quoted and weaponized as propaganda. Only after World War II were scholars able to finally get his texts back to the original way. Today, he is one of the most influential philosophers in modern history. It shaped existentialism, psychology, postmodernism, and even literature and art. He did not kill God, but he warned us what would happen if we did. And he asked a question that still echoes. If there is no authority, if there is no higher power, then what will you become? Well, his thought, as stated in this whole video, was you will become what you choose to be. Oh gosh, I can't believe I did that in one take. That was crazy.